Hello, everyone. My name is Jenny and I'm an astrologer. I work with Archangel Metatron in delivering these messages. So if you see me answering someone or shaking my head, that is who I'm talking to. Um, so we're going to get into some complex subjects, is what Metatron is saying during this video. I began working on this platform on YouTube as an astrologer, but I wear many different hats, is what Metatron is saying. And one of you, I think Robert, commented a while ago when I shared just some experiences in my life that those were things that I've earned ahead of time. So I don't like to use, he's kind of flinching at the word earned. But he's saying experiences that I've had before incarnating into this timeline to prepare me for this timeline, just like everyone else. But part of what I've done my whole life is to time travel, is what he's saying. I was going to say it a different way, but I've always been able to loop through time. He's giving me the words. Loop through time and make. He's saying that I move fluidly through the timelines. I will say he is pointing out now that when I first began, really coming into what I was going to do in this lifetime, which wasn't so long ago. I was in my 40s. What were you? Oh, okay. I saw myself, like, when I see myself out there, let's say, like doing this, doing that, like even in sleep time, being somewhere else on the earth. I am always in a white gown. I don't know, even when I was little, that was how I saw myself. It sort of looks like a white choir robe, I always say. But that's how I've always seen myself. And I was asleep and I was going by. Okay, so what it looked like to me, the Akashic, was a never-ending. It was round. It wasn't rectangle, but it was a round sort of room, I guess you would say, that had no top and no bottom. It sort of just went on and on and on. And in the walls, I could see, because they were clear, I could see books and books and books and books and books, and they're like never ending. They like go around and they go all the way to infinity and all the way down through infinity. And so I floated by it and I said to myself, oh, I can't go in there yet. So I wasn't seeing, I did, as a teenager, see a past life, but I didn't believe in past lives. So it was very confusing to me. But I'll talk about that on the twin flame video because it involved the twin flame. And the reason that we're going to get into some complex subjects, as Metatron said, is that I'm going to share with you what it looks like, what the timelines look like, and how you can best work with them. I had somebody leave a comment on Facebook for me earlier this week. I think that people, when I'm posting things about what's going on in the world, I think that they think that I'm worried. That's not me. I've known for a long time that these things were going to happen. It's just more, I didn't know how many people would not be continuing on in this part of the journey anyway with me, people that I know, that I'm close to, because they are caught up in fear and are distracted by other things. So that's why a lot of the posts, because it's pretty startling to me that people aren't able to recognize what is happening around them. But the comment was in reference to, like, oh, here's how to jump into a timeline. And it doesn't work that way. You can always raise your vibration, and if you're in a place that's lower because you're worrying and we're sowing like doubt and allowing fear to fester is what he's saying, then we need to shift out of that energy. But can you just shift into another timeline? No. Fortunately, we aren't capable of, like, shifting time. Imagine what a mess it would be if we were all shifting time. So we'll talk about like what it looks like, and then how to work with the law of time. That's another thing that I've always done my whole life. I tend to run late. I'm a Scorpio, and we procrastinate, especially if you're a Scorpio with Saturn retrograde in Taurus. It could be a lot of slow moving. So it's usually like on the way to an appointment that I'm working with time feverishly. And I always have been able to do that. It's always worked out really well for me. So, basically when he, showed me like the timelines, like the big timelines, he told me just go a bit higher than you typically do when you're working with time. And so we'll get into what it looks like and how this video, like what began in last 11/11, is now being talked about on video. And I'm outside. My neighbors I noticed today that there was a lot of activity going on next door. So you might hear the kids, but for sure the dog you're going to hear. So let's see. So last 11/11, I was standing at my kitchen sink. It wasn't on 11/11. Honestly, I didn't realize the significance, so I didn't pay attention to the date. But afterwards, I was like, right, that was probably like the week of 11/11. So I'm standing there doing dishes. I asked specifically not to have the turbulent umbrella again. I didn't realize until I watched that video how much the last video I made, how much the umbrella was playing a role. But yeah, we haven't had any wind all day, and now it's starting to pick up a little bit. So I'm sure that Metatron will take care of that. Of course, the wind was acting up like that because he had made reference to the weather becoming rambunctious, and we certainly have seen how that's played out in the United States. But so I was standing at my sink, and to my left, a shaft coming from a disc, like a disc that had, I was hoping I would have a tool to help to describe what this looks like. Do you remember the Frisbees that don't have a center? That's what it looks like. They turn like that, okay? So this thing was like turning. It didn't really get my attention until the shaft started coming down, and I was like, oh, I must be so ungrounded. I need to, like, I'm here and now, because I do have to do that a lot through the day. So and then I realized like there were other timelines over to my right that were swirling, and they're sort of layered, okay? And this is what your timelines look like your happenings, let's say, the things that you've made arrangements and agreements to do, people to meet. It doesn't have to be anything so significant. Everything has its own allotted time, is what he's saying. And so that's what I was seeing, like over to my right. When you see the past or the future in your dreams, just so you know, when you're shown something to the left, that's something that is from before, something from the past. When you're seeing something right in front of you, that's what's going on in your present. And when you see to the right of you, that is the future. And depending on like where to the right of you, you'll be able to figure out like about how much time that is going to be in. So, like when I do work with Nostradamus, or like if Metatron is showing me a vision, then I'm typically standing and we're looking down at something that's to the right of us. So that's the future. So when I saw this thing coming out of the left, I knew that's the past, and I was pissed. I was immediately like, I'm not going back to the past. I called my teacher and I was like, I need to talk to you and, figure out blah, blah, blah. And so she started saying, like, this is about the past. I was like, no, that's not what's happening. And so she actually changed what she was saying to go along. He is saying to appease me. And it was to appease me because turns out I was needing to go back and take a look at some things, involving work and different things that I need to clean up before I could move ahead. And so, and this is why it's important not to rush out and share information and to wait for a directive. That's what Metatron and I call that, which is why, by the way, this video is being made on Monday. I wanted to make this video a while ago, like days ago. And I thought like, oh, and then he was like, no, let's, and so I thought, okay, Friday, no, okay, Sunday. And I actually was going to yesterday, and then he told me that that was what I wanted to do, and it wasn't in the best interest of all that is. So I'm making it on Monday, which is close. Like, we're in the dark of the moon right now, the period, the 3 days leading up to the Virgo new moon. Any new moon, when you come like 2.5 days before, that's when we call the dark of the moon, and you begin releasing things so that you can move forward. And there is a bit of a slowdown in the dark of the moon. Not the best time to be like initiating something new, but of course everybody has their own timing, and there is grace, of course, what he's saying, and allotments made for when we have to do things in the dark of the moon. But so when you are about to experience a shift, a big shift, you will begin to have deja vu. So if you think back in your lifetime to periods, like for me, 2011, really big deja vu, where I was like, it's almost like, because literally another reality is syncing up to the current reality. And when you see timelines just individually, they are different colors, and they are tubes. They sort of look like tubes, and the tubes are rotating, and inside the tube is a spiral that's moving. Energy does not move like in a flow. Energy, it spirals. It moves it with motion in waves, okay? And that's what timelines look like as well. And so, if I ever am doing a healing with someone, because I actually, Metatron had me go up and move a timeline so that I could see something for myself. And you can't, move timelines for everyone. That you could ask, but it's not going to happen. That's like saying, oh, I'm going to jump into another timeline. It doesn't work like that. So what happened was, I saw those discs, and like I said, they look like saucers, like frisbees without the center. They're discs, and they're rotating, and they're white. And depending on the happening in that timeline, the size of the disc is different. So they're not all the same. And like I said, they're sort of stacked. And not like we, with humans, like we like to put things in categories and they don't look like that, because he's saying that they're fluid. And so they can bounce around. They can trade positions. They can move and change. And so I pulled one into my present, and what happened was the shaft started coming down toward me, and then it turned and it went back over to the right, like, oh, can't move that one. I knew which one it was. So I'm just letting you know, like, we can't. And he was just basically showing me, how to explain it to people. But that is something that, we in our human, we only have like this much of the story a lot of the time. And the higher self, the soul, the creator, they know the entire picture and what's best for all that is. And that is how timelines work. It's always according to what is best for all that is, that the synchronicities happen and that they are matched up. And there are, things like divine timings where it's going to happen at this time. Like I said, 2011, when I was about to take a rocket ride, is how they referred to it. I was having serious deja vu. I was also speaking to beings. Mind you, I'm not in the mindset that I'm in right now at all. at all. Didn't listen to anything like that. Didn't, not part of my world at all, is what Metatron is saying. And I said, literally out loud to someone who I couldn't see, I'm getting ready, I'm coming. And I had no idea who I was talking to or why. And it didn't dawn on me to think like, oh, that's weird. So it's just amazing, like how when we're asleep, we can stay asleep, and yeah, and just be in denial of what's going on around us. You know, when the universe is like, wake up. So yeah, that's how you do it, and you need direction and help for that. And of course, you work with the law of time. I always go through the creator before I work with the laws or any other beings or people, or like when Freddie Mercury showed up for me. I'll talk about that some other time, because I know Freddie is going to have a little bit to say, but that's a long story how that came about. But what happened was I finished watching Bohemian Rhapsody, and Metatron came in orange. He was like pure orange, and then Freddie came through him, just so that I would feel okay about talking to him, because that's something that I had sworn off. So of course it happened, because I said I was never going to do that. So yeah, I wanted to just get in that a little bit about timelines, just to kind of clear the air. You know, my number is 1. I'm numerologically a 1, no matter how you slice it. I'm born on the 1st, and I'm November 1st, so that's a 111. And then I'm born in a 7 year, so I'm a 1. I mean, even with my name, no matter how you do my name, it's a 1. So, you know, a lot of this stuff is new, and it's sort of like, you know, when you have this message and you're waiting for the right time, and then you hear other people just sort of like filling in holes because they don't have all the information, and they're just saying whatever. It's frustrating, because I'm human, I have an ego, and they don't care, of course. The creator doesn't care, but you know, I feel like that's part of my mission, is what he's saying, setting the record straight and telling the truth. And then there was another comment on my personal page about, you know, taking sides. And so I wanted to be very clear once again, I'm not shilling for either party. I don't want either party in office. I really want the system to go. But now that, you know, like, and this is part of what he was talking about for all of us right now, that we've asked for so many years for change to come. And he's saying that a lot of us are like bracing for change, like like we're on some kind of terrified ride. But he's saying, just remember, this is what you asked for, and you're a part of it, and it is an exciting time, exhilarating time. He's saying to be alive, savor it. He's saying. Because, and he's bringing up again, what one of you had an experience with me where in the past life, you know, she was just sobbing and sobbing, and I was like trying not to cry, because I could feel it, the pain of having lived their best life as the minister that she was. She lived her best life, and she did everything that she knew to do right, and she didn't enjoy the moment and the experience of being alive. We want to come here. We choose our identity, our name, what we're going to look like, who our family is going to be. And we do set up circumstances and situations that are hurdles for us, or hoops to jump through, and like acrobatics, he's saying, to make it all the more exciting, and to be able to experience the ups and downs, because it's really just an experience. It isn't like, you know, someone's up there writing down like, okay, that was good, that was bad, that was good, that was bad. Or they're not doing what they're supposed to do. There isn't a supposed to do. And we only come to what it is that we love and what it is that we want to create when we've spent time with ourselves, building rapport, he's saying, with ourselves, and getting to know ourselves, and finding out what it is that we'd like to do. And a lot of times the only reason that we don't know is because our energy has been going to other people all along the way, and we sort of forgot ourselves. And so that brings me to the subject of the maiden. And because lately, I don't know, in the past like 6 or 8 weeks or so, they've been bringing to mind the feeling that I had when I lived in Africa, when I was 20 years old, when the world was just wide open and nobody was making any demands on me and I could do whatever I wanted to do with my life. That's the maiden, Virgo. Before she becomes the mother, before the wise crone is there, we are in that maiden energy, regardless of sex. Let's not attach male or female, but just when we're in that young adulthood, like just beginning to start out at the threshold, Metatron is saying. And so if you can recapture that and see yourself there now, and instead of all of the reasons why it won't work out and we're so old and da da da, and what about this and what about that, leave that to the universe, leave that to your soul, leave that to the creator of all that is, and just begin to move forward. And he's saying that those things will go, those worries move to the wayside, because we become enraptured. He's talking about it being hopeful, being enraptured in the possibilities that the future holds. And that's a lot of the astrology of this Virgo new moon as well. So let me just grab the papers that I dropped. So let's take a look at the chart, and I have a chart for the solstice as well. I like the solstice chart better. But so there we have, and today we are in the Uranus Venus square. So if you look at your Venus up here in Leo, and then Uranus there in Taurus. So because Venus is with Sphinx and Vesta, this is most likely going to be something that shifts, that is something that maybe you've an unconscious agreement to, where the higher self or spirit takes a hand and something is shifted, and most likely it will have to do with partners. And that doesn't just mean romantic partners. Any partner. It could also have to do with food, and it could also have any issues of balance, is what Metatron is saying. And I want to remind everyone that with the new moon, you're looking at a 2-year before that new moon wraps up. And he reminded me earlier too that 2 years ago I did a video about the new moon in Aries, and someone made a video saying, like, don't fear the new moon, in reference to my video. Well, here we are 2 years later, and most likely everything that I said on that video is what we're living in now. No one can make anyone feel fear. Either a person hears the truth and they feel fear, or they don't, but we're never responsible for how others, we deliver the truth with compassion and grace. But if someone does feel fear, it could just be because a part of their consciousness realizes what's coming in that video, that, maybe didn't want to hear. But I'm always I'm giving it to you straight, and I'm just going to always tell you the truth. And obviously what is going on right now, who could have imagined the things that are happening now? Certainly not me. So that one is wrapping up. That's good news. And now we're starting this new moon in Virgo. And so when we talk about the Uranus Venus square, that could also have to do with money. Uranus is sort of like the wheel of fortune in the tarot too, that you don't know like what things are going to go on. But this is definitely going to have to do with, he's talking about gaining strength and gaining momentum, and almost like a forward push, okay? And moving us on. And that's that he's showing me, like the way the wheel kind of can spur us forward. So there may be some unexpected things happening with partners, some revelations that come forward with this energy. And then when you take a look at the moon and the sun, they are together. They're at 26 degrees and change of Virgo. And I want you to notice that next to them you can see the asteroid where it says Magda. And then at that very same degree, there is an asteroid named Trinh. And so, very funny story. I have a friend on Facebook, and she's an astrologer, but she posted about Lady Trieu. Let me get this spelling because I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Vietnamese. And it's Trieu. I'll put her name down in the description box. She was a female warrior in the 3rd century. She went down in history as a great heroine, a brave commander who kept fighting for the national sovereignty of Vietnam. One of the great quotes of all time is attributed to her. I would like to ride storms, kill sharks in the open sea, drive out the aggressors, reconquer the country, undo the ties of serfdom, and never bend my back to be the concubine of whatever man. So she's badass. And so, but yeah, she put this up on Facebook, this post that she'd found. And for whatever reason, I thought like, oh, I'm going to look and see if there's an asteroid for her. And I tried the first name that I spelled for you, and there was nothing. But the other part of her name, Trinh, there is an asteroid. And wouldn't you know, that very day, that asteroid was on the sun. Isn't that crazy? And so, and I kept it in my program, and I noticed that as I did sessions with it, it was really significant. It was significant in my chart, and it was significant in my clients' charts. So I will, next to her name, I will put the asteroid number. And so she's just the archetype of almost like a Joan of Arc, because, I can't remember who Vietnam had been taken over. I think it was China. And she actually invaded China. She got a group of people together and they invaded China. Like, she was badass. So yeah, it's the archetype of like that Joan of Arc kind of. Hi, good. How are you? And she didn't need any man. And so moving out of that, moving away from that, and where we've allowed ourselves to become dependent. So look at how that long blue line goes from the sun and moon to Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn there, all of the big boys down in Capricorn in this chart. And where, maybe people that we've loved, that we've given over power to or authority to, and allowed ourselves to just sort of go along with their story. Now it's time to find our own. And that doesn't matter, again, if you're a male or female. That, we can take on things of others and become inhibited and not follow our own dreams because we want to do what's best for them. I certainly was like that in my early days, right after that's how I got out of maidenhood, right? So he also wanted me to go over. I just want to make sure that I get the times out. So the new moon is on the 17th in Chicago at 6 a.m., 9 p.m. in Sydney, 8 a.m. in Rio de Janeiro, and in London it's at noon. And that is on the 17th. And this is the first of 3 in a row super new moons. We have them September, October, and November. And so as we're going back to look at, to refocus, reconfigure, and that's that long trine that you see down there to Saturn. And, we're going back over releasing what has not worked for us in the past, what no longer serves us. And he's saying also just what we're tired of that just doesn't bring us fulfillment or joy. And of course, that includes work and relationships and even where you're living, he's saying. So, something could come up about a place to make a new start, or, other opportunities. And we can see there the ruler, Mercury, next to the number 11 there in Libra. He is in a square exactly to Jupiter. And so that speaks about opportunities that went by the wayside because Jupiter will have just begun to move forward at the time of the new moon. So opportunities, and this would most likely because, it always is soul family, but it could be that you have new opportunities to meet soul family members in this energy as well. When you look at the quincunx, because Mars is at 27 as well of Aries, And so that's 150 degrees to the sun and moon. And he's retrograde. He's with Eris and Black Moon Lilith and in Leo and or in Aries in the 5th house. So when we're again talking about releasing stuff that didn't work out so well, that maybe cost us something, or he's saying broke us, and allowing ourselves time to soothe the wound and to move forward in a different way. And he's talking about, that when we're in this kind of energy, when we're in the dark night of the soul, for humanity, for the planet right now, when we're in that energy, that it can be very tricky. He's saying, oh, tricky. Mercury, trickster. It can be tricky. And of course, Mercury rules the mind. And it's like, what are we going to listen to? The lower vibration or the higher vibration? And just whatever shoulder too. Not anything like significant with that, just so you know. But what are we listening to? Are we going to choose to believe in hope? Because right now we do need to say, I choose to believe in hope. Otherwise, we will get caught up in that almost like drain, like it's the drain going down. But when we're talking about this period, that we're, moving into, to move forward, to make the transition, to make the shift, to circle back to what has not been a good experience. What was it? What is it about this? Why is it costing you something? Why is it costing you something? Why does it need to cost you something? Why, he's saying, can you have a wonderful and fulfilling professional life and career and feel appreciated and loved, and then face a completely different reality with your significant other? Why is that okay? Who said it had to be that way, is what he's saying. You can have that, your heart can be full on every front. And when it isn't, it's because part of us is making a sacrifice to be long suffering, or, make sure that there is some sort of sacrifice or some way that we're paying our way. And really, quantum physics, you're a part of the universe. You're a specimen of all that is, a spark of the creator, and your thoughts create your reality. Your words create your reality. That isn't a silly spiritual belief. That is quantum mechanics, quantum physics. I just want to give you guys these dates before I go on to talk about the solstice. So, obviously Jupiter is stationary until the 15th. And, when people talk about like this planet's going retrograde, I look at when it stations, because when it stations, that's when you feel it the strongest. And when Mars stationed, when a planet stations, what happens is it isn't actually moving backwards. It's moving between the Earth and the sun. And so then we have that phenomenon, like when you're driving next to a train and it looks like one of you is going backwards. And that the planet looks to be going backwards, and it feels as if it's going backwards. And it's, that's an indication to go within. Always retrogrades are about going back over, but always, going within and sorting through what's inside, and the sweet nectar that lies inside, he's saying, and your wisdom that's all there in the core, and maybe underdeveloped because there isn't any seeking within. It's more looking for information out there. He is saying when it's all within you, everything that is important, that matters, that lasts, is inside you. What's going to happen in the next couple of months, not so important in the big scheme of things, but what's inside you, always important, always valid, always necessary, he's saying, to check within and not to be looking so much for answers on the outside. So on the 27th then of September, Saturn will stop. at the degree where he is. Oh, I was going to talk about Mars. I'm sorry. You just, I haven't even told you guys like why I'm making this video so late in the day and everything that has gone on with my technology, because I don't want to waste time. But yeah, this was supposed to start like 6 hours ago, but my laptop has passed. And so while I'm waiting for the new one, I needed to improvise. So Mars, when Mars stationed, you can tell always if you look at like astrocartography. I don't know if any of you have ever done that before. I do that with people depending, if they're looking to move or they're going here or going there. We look at their astrology here and there. And the planets are always aspecting the Earth at the time that you were born. There are lines that go through the Earth, like, for me, my Chiron line. I live in my Chiron line. And my Neptune moon line is California, and I always said, like, that's my heaven, California. Mars stationed and aspected all of the coast, the western coast of North America. And, when a planet is retrograde, it's closer to the Earth. Of course, Mars is fire. The fires were already going, but that's, when we started to see like fire tornadoes and all kinds of phenomena that, scary. I mean, Seattle today is dark. Because I believe in science, and so does Metatron. I believe that this is climate change. I don't believe that you can keep putting pollution out without a reaction to it. Just doesn't make sense. And I know that they did catch the person who was addicted to meth, a couple of people in Oregon, but we can't like blame the entire, story of climate change on arsonists. This is what's happening, and it isn't. It is. He's saying it is a man-made phenomenon, and it's a naturally occurring one as well. And so the Earth is going to do what she needs to do to rid herself of the toxins and the pollution, and that is a change that takes place over. What are you saying with that? Many years of time. I thought he was going to say several decades, but many years of time, and it always is changing, is what he's saying. It is never abrupt. The process of creation isn't abrupt. And so and he's saying that a lot of people's links with suffering, or the cause of people suffering now, is that they're linked with what is happening for the people involved on the coast of the western United States. I know Canada as well has fires, in British Columbia, and the animals, he's saying. And so anytime that you would like to, you can always ask him to release any ties of sorrow and suffering that you're carrying, in order to show that you care and that you're allowed to carry joy. He's saying the joy that every being feels when they cross, when their paths cross from one existence into the next. There is no suffering there, he's saying. And so you can allow yourself relief through releasing it and allowing it to go, is what he's saying, that carrying that suffering doesn't help anyone. And so, I'll let you guys, whoever you want to ask to help you with that. But he did want me to mention that. So Saturn stations then on the 27th of September, and then on the 29th. This is when he turns and he begins to like make a move to tick forward. But the time that he does that, the date is 9/29/2020, and so that's a 222, and it's significant because of course a 6 is always about the return, and so is Virgo, the harvest and what we reap and what have we sown thus far that we're going to reap as our reward. And Saturn does, that he is the taskmaster, he's the Lord of Karma, he's this and that, but he also brings benefits and rewards. and makes gives us, like, here you go, here's your present, because you did such a good job. And so it isn't all bad news. When he does station, of course, we can feel that very intensely. And I wanted to let you guys know that as that happens simultaneously, he will move forward, then actually tick forward on October 2nd. And so at the time of the full moon, we are going to be feeling Saturn a lot. I don't know about all of you. When Saturn stops or does anything, I can feel it. And that full moon in Aries, which will be wrapping up that new moon video that I did a couple of years ago, the new moon in Aries. I don't remember what it's called. But that will be conjunct Chiron. So I just want to prepare you. October is big. It's very big. But when we go, just the fact that we go into the month and we're, feeling Saturn, and then he's saying the shift. We're going to begin to feel a shift. So when we're talking about a new moon at a time when Saturn is squaring it, when Saturn, is trine, but retrograde in that trine, and Mars is squaring it, and Mars always is battling through and pushing forward. And when we have Mars in aspect to the South Node, or like for me, it's squaring Saturn, and there's all different ways that you can put a kibosh on Mars. That is when people tend to jump in and to move forward, or to do things like reflex that maybe needs more thought before we jump. And so, just be aware that all of the people out there who don't know what we know are going to be agitated and aggravated and frustrated, because things aren't just going to like zip, take off right now. But it's the energy when Mars and Saturn are in that square, that forges steel. That forges steel. And when I was talking, he's doing it again, when we were going over this material, I don't know, a week ago, he started playing Slow Ride, Take It Easy. You know the song. That's it. That's what we're doing now. And it's really like making your list. And I really would encourage you, especially on a Virgo new moon, and you've got leeway. If you're watching this 3 weeks from now, do it then. It's all good. When you're talking about Virgo, that's a lot of ritual too. And releasing the story of sacrifice. So do a ritual in relation to releasing sacrifice, because he keeps pushing that. It's that whole thing, serve or suffer, and that's, we're not doing that anymore, because now we understand who we truly are, and we aren't reliant on something outside of us to tell us what to do, or to allow us to do what we would like, he's saying. So if you can, any kind of ritual, maybe make 3 lists. Make the he's talking about a before and after list. So maybe 1, what you're releasing. And a lot of this is going to be habits. And I don't ever, please understand that no one's ever judging us. If anybody ever tells you an angel said that you should do something, that's their ego talking to you. They don't use the word should. They give us guidance and suggestions, and they maintain a connection with us, but they do not give us orders, is what he's saying. So when we're talking about making the list, and releasing habits, I want to make sure that no one feels guilt, because that's Virgo too. And there's never any reason to feel guilt or to feel shame. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You've never done anything that's unforgivable. You're always just having the experience and gaining lessons. And when we do play the shadow, it's because, everybody has to play the shadow sometime. And those soulmates who contracted with you when you were when you played the part of the shadow asked you to do so, and you did what you were asked. And so a lot of my session work is always releasing responsibility for ties that we're caught up in because of regret, because of guilt, because of remorse, he's adding. And where we feel like he's showing me when they used to whip themselves, and where we go over and over and over our mistakes. One time, one and done is what he's saying. One, I apologize. I release the regret. I'm allowing myself to let it go. and then you're done. He's saying, and he just showed me like a with the magic sparkles, like that's it, finished. And so really, that could be part of your new moon ritual too, if that's something that you struggle with. I have a lot of stuff in my sixth house, and my sixth house is ruled by Virgo, and so that is something that I am working through in this lifetime. And it does a lot of good to say, like, oh, I have nothing to be ashamed of. I regret nothing. I was loving having that experience. And it sounds flippant, but it really makes a difference, because it helps you to appreciate when you feel the relief. Then you realize like how long you've been going over that. And a lot of times this is tied to things that you don't have a conscious we don't have a conscious memory of, that we're carrying guilt and shame and da 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 da. And it's not, it's not even related to the timeline that we're in. And he's also bringing attention to that as well, that this is a time when he's saying that it's more pronounced, the feelings of being connected to other places and other times. And he's saying it's sort of like the shaft being open, and he's talking about the shaft being open at night, and in dream time, where people are going here and going there and attending to details. He's talking about, and he's also showing me now meetings, like soul family council meetings, while we're getting ready to do this shift. So this will take place like from this period, and I really feel like it began honestly with the last full moon. That's when he showed me. I'm going to put it on the community page when I find the image, because just the technology stuff that's going on, I'm not going to go into it. But when I find the image, I will upload it to the community tab. And I can tell a lot of people aren't getting notifications by the reactions on the community tab. So, and people have told me that they've been on their notifications weren't going through. So you might want to check that, because YouTube just did a lot of different things. And so some people are not getting notified anymore. And always, with whatever videos you watch, check that for YouTube. But I don't remember what I was saying. And he was also talking about in relation to the Saturn Mars, that it's the measuring success, like measures of success. So making the list for, with a near future, the not so distant future, and the distant future, and however you want to do that. I wouldn't trap yourself too much with years, like this much time. I mean, it's always good to have like a goal, but to just be open. I always say, my divine timing, I'm aligned with my divine timing, the divine timing of the earth, and the creator's divine timing, and being in that alignment. I don't know, probably a year and a half now, instead of 111, 222, 333. I mean, I do those, but it's mainly like 110, 221, because I'm not so patient, and I don't like going back over things that I thought I was finished with, but just happy to be here. So he's talking about with that Mars Saturn square that we're working through until, because Saturn is going to square him for the last time about mid-January. So we're talking about months of that energy, feeling that he's going to be squaring, Pluto or Saturn or Jupiter. He'll finish with first, but, Jupiter, by the way, too, when he turns to move direct today, he's facing a Pluto retrograde. So I saw so many people talking about like how uplifting it's going to feel. I don't know. I mean, it's not terrible. But it's not going to be typical. Jupiter in Capricorn isn't his exuberant self anyway. And now he's got the challenge of Pluto he's moving past, and then Saturn he's moving past. And then that'll all finish out by the end of the year, because Jupiter and Saturn will come to 0 of Aquarius on the 21st of December. So that will feel a lot of relief then once Jupiter moves away from that, like the end of the year. He was talking about setting the parameters for success, and in allowing habits to go that no longer serve us. He's talking about that some of these habits have become toxic for us, whether it's sugar, anything that we feel or we believe, or an aspect of us believes, he's saying that we can't do without. then most likely there's a surrender of power involved in that. And so asking again, he's showing me how many people just felt condemnation when I said that. Please, that's not unnecessary. No, there's no condemnation at all. It's just for what's best for your health. It's really not, that whole sins of the flesh. It's for your health, really. And it was just misconstrued so that the elites could be like, oh, we're going to tell these little people, scare the hell out of them so that they do everything they're supposed to do. But it's not, it's just what's good for your body and what's not. And so he's saying that we may be unintentionally allowing toxins and pollutants, not only in the physical body, but in the energy field. Just one second. And so you can always ask that energy be cleansed and witness. He's talking about like seeing the soul fragments coming back in as little tiny stars, going to the solar plexus, or you can just feel the solar plexus like getting stronger. And you can do that every day until you're finished with it. And always, of course, when we add the component with guilt, that's sort of inviting the negativity. So bless whatever you ingest, whatever you inhale. At the end of the day, I say I'm healed, cleansed, and released from everything I'm used to just saying it. So absorbed, ingested, inhaled, chewed, or swallowed. And because a lot of times you can absorb the energy of the person that you're talking to in the grocery store. And they might have something that is like, oh, I'm going to hitch a ride on her for a while. So, it's just a good practice to do like every day. But when you do the new moon ritual, please take time to forgive yourself. Anything of guilt that you've been holding on to, or he's talking about any long held grudge, any grudge that you're holding against someone, that he's saying that doors and windows of opportunities fly open when unforgiveness is released, when a grudge is released, when regret is released. And of course, when Saturn and Mars are working in this energy, that is discipline and focus. Discipline and focus and attention to the task at hand. And he's saying not allowing ourselves to be distracted with things that go to the wayside, but really focusing on coming to get to know ourselves within. And the hermit energy of Virgo, of course, as well. And, the hermit energy, I remember that I told him years ago, don't ever give me the hermit card again. Because every reading that I do is the hermit card, and it still goes out. I told him now he can't again because he found other ways to, he's saying, allude to the hermit card. But yeah, I mean, it's not fun, right? It's not like, ooh, hermit. Like, ooh, I can't wait to meditate. I'm one of those people that it takes me a long time to get my mind to quiet down. And so he's talking about if you have the opportunity to, anytime during the day that's convenient for you, lay down in the bed and listen to soft music, or any of those hertz, the 432 megahertz. I go with whatever speaks to me, so I'm not telling you which one at all. But if you can set aside 10 or 20 minutes a day to allow yourself a chance to breathe. And I want to show you, so when we come to September 22nd, then 2020, that's a 2222. So we've got a lot of twos, a lot of issues of balance coming up right now. And there is the chart for the equinox, the vernal equinox for those of you in the southern hemisphere, and the autumnal equinox for all of us in the northern hemisphere. And there you see that I wanted to show you guys where Venus and Vesta and Sphinx are all there together in the 8th house in Leo. And both of the green lines that go down, one to Neptune, who is retrograde, and then one over to Jupiter and Pluto, I guess you would say too. Gabriel is in there next to Jupiter. And that is that's called a yod, or the finger of God. And so it's a significant shift. I love that in this chart, Mercury is on the fixed star Spica, which is also Antares, and where Antares is located. And, you know, Mercury, Spica is the fixed star that is in the constellation of Virgo, and it speaks to an abundant harvest. And Mercury, of course, rules Virgo. It falls at 24 of Libra in tropical astrology, but that is from Virgo. And so it's significant that he's there. Also, he is opposing then Black Moon Lilith and Mars and Uranus. Uranus is also in the fourth house, but in the fourth house in mundane astrology, fourth house rules climate change, and so that's a lot of like harsh energy going on in the fourth house, and this could have to do too with family and gaining independence, you know, from like agreements that are no longer serving you. Not, you know, a lot of times it's a matter, and this is especially true for men, which I'll talk about more in the twin flame video, and that hasn't come out yet because of a comment that I got on a really old twin flame video, really like ew, comments, and I was like, okay, maybe not the best time for that. But when you're looking at, like the moon actually is on Antares, which is the eye of the scorpion. It falls in Sagittarius and tropical astrology, but it's the eye of the Scorpio, and that is linked with Archangel Uriel. And when it's intercepted the moon like that in Sagittarius, I actually married someone with an intercepted moon in Sagittarius, so how much time you got? We could talk about that. But when it's like that with Uranus, then it's like really we're having to come up with new ways to feel satisfaction, to feel satiated. You know, there could be like times when we feel lonely. I would just encourage everyone to try to connect with other people, others of, you know, that you're like, whose vibrations match yours online. You know, that's a good way to deal with that, feeling lonely. And, you know, and also the sun, if you notice the sun there right at the door of Libra, of course, because we start the season of Libra at the equinox, is with Archangel Raphael. The asteroid Raphael is right there with the sun. So that's nice. I like to see that. And, you know, I would say too that we're still going to be dealing with flooding. I haven't heard anything about the flooding in China because I live in the United States and we only have one subject that we talk about 24/7. So if somebody wants to fill me in, I would appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, just the South Node being like right under the ascendant here too tells me, again, going over and doing internal work, finding out like, why do you need that? Why do you need to smoke that? Why do you need to drink that in order to feel better? There's always something of sorrow that we're suppressing. It's not evil. You know, it begins with sorrow, the shadow. The shadow is sad. The shadow is sorrow. It turns to anger because because the neglect is there, but it begins with sadness. So I want to read the symbol, and then we're going to talk more about timelines because I didn't go over the whole. He reminded me that I still was going to talk about other important aspects of timelines, he's saying. So this is from John Sandbach, and I always put these links in the description box if you guys want to read this. So this is the degree that Mercury is on, and Mercury is ruling the new moon in Virgo. Sorry, he's at Libra 18, and this is the Omega symbol. Waking in the night, a man feels an earthquake. The force of evolution will inevitably induce the release of any illusions which stand in its way. When these releases come, the extent to which we benefit from them depends on our reactions to them. If we can flow with them and allow their force to loosen and clear whatever is in us we are ready to let go of, we will receive maximum benefit from their healing potential. This degree acutely senses change and knows how to subtly foster it. Slow ride. The Chandra symbol for this degree is a woman carefully counting beans in a jar. Through this simple act of quantification, this degree seeks a sign, a portent that manifests in the numerological significance in the number of beings. This is one of the simplest and homeliest of all of the symbols, but it contains more than what appears on the surface. For the beings have a limited number, and yet planted and allowed to grow and produce through an indefinite and potentially infinite number of cycles, they are unlimited. Has anyone ever grown beans? My parents used to grow beans. They grow like crazy. The beans and the strawberries will take over the garden. They multiply and multiply and multiply. And so this degree is about perceiving the infinite within the seemingly limited reality around oneself. And this simple act of perception actually fosters the infinite's healing force. In both the Omega and Chandra symbol of this degree, very little action is taken on the part of the people involved. In the Omega, it is a mere witnessing, and in the Chandra, it is only the act of counting. The minimizing of doing here magnifies the potency of being and witnessing, which subtly enhances and supports the forces of evolution. And again, during this whole Mars retrograde, just not answering, when someone's angry, just not answering, just being like, what's that? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I answer, but I also am like, no, this is the line and you've crossed the line. And so we're not going to be so close, in such a close connection anymore. You can love people and accept them without having them in your life every day, and if someone breaks trust, he's talking about people that we allow into our, inner sanctum, like into our boundaries, who have given us no reason to trust them, and releasing those that we can't trust, that we know we can't trust. That's relationships that he's talking about. Okay, and then this is the degree of the moon. A cup made from a skull is filled with dark wine. The mind can generate such debris in its continual playing around. You know that this debris can be like fertilizer. When we can't get away from it, for if we struggle against it, we will only set up conflict between ourselves and it. The best way to handle this is to allow ourselves to feel what we are feeling and to the depth we're feeling it. This will ultimately release and purify the mind. At its highest, this degree has the ability to take in the past so deeply that it can then overcome dualities and fully arrive, as if by miracle, in the present, where looking with an unclouded vision, it sees things that may have gone long unrecognized. He was also talking to me about the fact that this is a time when we don't have all of the facts. And I was going to save this more for the Nostradamus video, although I don't know that I'm so gung-ho about talking about earth changes right now when we're in this energy. I will say that for surely something else is coming. And he was talking about the importance of forgiving those who we don't see eye to eye with and releasing them if that is what's called for, but allowing forgiveness and reconciliation to take part within the spiritual community, and he's talking about just being friendly and just having a friendly association. I've had a lot of people have sent me emails or comments, or even in session time talking to people who tell me, I watched this person, I watched that person, and now they're saying this and this now, and what should I do? And I always say, if you feel like what you're getting is beneficial for you and you're gaining from it, and you've seen that is true for you, then, you could keep doing that. Keep listening, but just be really careful about what you're putting into your mind right now, because at first when we hear these things, they sound outlandish, but then they present these facts, and so we can be converted over, and all it's doing is just driving separation and division. and there aren't any good guys and any bad guys. I mean, obviously we all know that the governments that we see and the things that go on, that there are people working behind the scenes to do them, but we don't know their identities. And when people have a political agenda that they're driving everyone toward, it's pretty obvious, that that's what's happening. And so really utilizing critical thinking and then just accepting that that's what they've chosen and that that's their path. And it's, he's saying not to have judgment for people who have been deceived or we believe have been deceived, that just allowing them to do their thing. He's saying just allowing them, just letting them go and releasing them, allowing them to believe what they believe, and, that that's their path and that that's their, leaving it with their soul, he's saying. Just leaving it with their soul. So I was going to talk about right now with the time shift, okay? Because I talked about the individual timelines and how you can move them and how that works, and you cannot do that unless like if I am in a healing session, I think it's only happened once that I was in a healing session and they brought the timeline over. I saw it like zip over. I was like, oh, okay. And so we, moved it, but I did that with direction because it's like if you say, Creator, cleanse all of the radiation from my body. No radiation will go because your body needs radiation to survive. And so then when you say unnecessary radiation, then you witness it. Leaving it goes out the right. But when you're shifting timelines and things like that, if we're making a request or, because it's hard to say, are we doing this to be controlling? Like in mine, I said it was kind of a joke, but it was something that I wanted. So I moved it up. But then the shaft came down way into the future. So you can't really make a mistake. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, if for those of you who'd like to practice doing that, it's kind of fun. But right now, when we talk about time, and I meant to grab Metatron's cube. I already talked about how, we're in the center and then there's the 6 timelines that feed into this timeline. And we wait for them to line up. And they look like the colored tubes, like I said. So when you look at just time overall, it looks like a captain's wheel on a ship. And the spokes it's all spokes. They connect then to other realms of time. But we're going to talk about this one, okay? And what it looks like is in the sort of wheel, there are like circles of time or rotating. They come down, they get like corkscrew in, and they move out. And he's calling it a labyrinth. It's a labyrinth. And they flow and they move, and at times we make a significant shift in them that reverberates, he's saying, through all of time. And so this isn't the individual. This is like I don't even know if I want to say humanity. An existence shifts. So it isn't even, limited to this planet. But there is one coming, in this next few months he's calling it a hurdle. And it's a significant shift. I like scooted my hips over, but I don't know how else to describe and how better to do that. I mean, those are things that I'll do in classes with people. Like in my first class, we looked at all of the chakras, the higher chakras, the stellar gateway, and the solar star, the soul star, the crown star that holds all of the key codes that looks a bit like a lotus flower. We did that in the class. And so I imagine that when we get into time classes that we'll talk about that. I don't know if that will be with Mercury, because Mercury rules cycles and Saturn rules time. And so they work together in that way. And you can see it in the astrology that we're having now with Mercury and Saturn making what's called a partile, where they're both at the exact same degree in the same element. So they're Virgo and Capricorn, of course, are Earth, and they're at the exact same degree in those signs. So that is significant. That's a significant shift in a cycle or a loop or, the timelines. So we have the individual timelines, and then we have the wheel of time, and we're going to make a shift there. So in this next few months, and of course, that usually does turn out to be something with the 1111 gateway. Also, the ascendant for this chart is the 1111 gateway, the same degree as the 1111 gateway. So, and that I run it for universal time. So that's that's the ascendant of the chart for universal time is Zubin Ishmaeli. That's where we get those two fixed stars where things could go really well or things could go really bad. Well, it's always perfect, right? But you know what I'm saying. So anyway, everybody, I hope you have a beautiful new moon ceremony, and I'll have more information about Egeria's circle and things like that. I guess I haven't mentioned for a while because I've been getting a lot of questions. I'm not on so often because I am a full-time caregiver. My daughter used to have school, and she doesn't have anything like that now. So she gets to go out and be entertained for a few hours during the week here and there. But otherwise, it's me 24/7, and I am inundated with that. I don't know, how much longer she'll even be home, but of course, while she's here, I'm in the driver's seat, and I'm doing the work with that. A lot of people, by the way, just so everyone knows, a lot of people that watch this channel are full-time caregivers of siblings or children or parents. And some people are, in need of care as well. So we have a lot of different people who have, struggles similar to mine. And so I think it's nice that they get to be heard from, because no one ever does hear or talk about them. And there's two birds going over. So again, balance 222 and 2222 came up for the astrology. And so, yeah. We will discuss more about timelines as he brings that to me, but he asked me to share that about this particular new moon because we're about to enter a strenuous cycle in this next few months, this next short period of time. So, buckle up, everybody. Here we go. Onward and upward, right? All right, everybody, take care. I know this is long. I'm at 11144 right now, so I didn't have any idea I'd gone this long. And once I have the opportunity to do this, I try to get as much in as possible. So anyway, guys, sending you so much love. Take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you again, hopefully in a week or so. All right, bye-bye.